I'll say good morning to the board and staff. It is now 10:03, and we want to call this meeting to order. Beverly, can we start with a roll call?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning, Board of Directors. Director Emister. Thank you. He's present. Director Odell.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, thank you. Director Stone.
Present.
Thank you. Director Lockett. He is present and his audio is connected. Director Adams. Director Adams is present as well. Okay, here's Director Adams. He's present. Thank you. Director Robinson.
Present.
Thank you. Director Leggett.
Present.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran.
Present.
Thank you. And Chairman Cody.
Present.
Chairman, you have a quorum of the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. And going into today's agenda, I think we want to accept today's agenda. We will be going into executive session.
Motion to accept the agenda as is.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Beverly.
Okay. Any discussion for the floor? And I'll do the roll call.
We have any discussion?
Okay. Director Emister.
Yes.
Director Odell. Okay. She's not present yet. Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Lockett. Director Lockett. Yes. Director Adams.
Yes.
Director Robinson.
Yes.
Director Leggett.
Yes.
Director O'Halloran.
Yes.
Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Chairman, motion passed for the approval of today's agenda.
All right, thank you. All right, I want to turn the floor over to Ms. Ragland. We're going into the first item on the consent agenda.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and the public who might be attending. We have
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Ragland. Please
Yes.
forgive me. Are we moving to the presentation at this time?
yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay, do we have Mr. Scott?
Yeah,
I
ma'am.
see
See
Mr.
him,
Scott. Okay, all right, Ms. Ragland, we have everyone here.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
don't scare me like that, Beverly. We have Mr. Trey Scott, who's going to give us a presentation on the post-audit review. Mr. Scott, if you will.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for having me as well. My name's Trey Scott. I'm the partner who oversaw the audit of the authority's June 30, 2021 financial statements with the firm Malden & Jenkins, your independent auditor, and I'm pleased to be here with you all to present the results of our audit. Just to give you a quick purpose of today's presentation, I'm going to introduce Malden & Jenkins to you, give you an overview of our auditor's report, our compliance reports, and your financial statements, and then go over some required communications with you, and then answer any questions that you may have. Really quickly about Malden & Jenkins, we have been around a little over 100 years. We serve 565, or a little over 565 governmental entities throughout the Southeast. About 17 of those are standalone transit authorities like you all. We serve those clients from 12 offices across the Southeast in 5 states. And the office that serves the authority is the Savannah, Georgia office. And you can see over there to the right, we provide over 120,000 hours annually to our governmental clients. Of particular importance to you, although I think as it relates to our audit, is our audit opinion on your financial statements. I think you all know that the authority is responsible for the financial statements. It's our responsibility as your auditor to express an opinion on those financial statements based on our audit. And we do that by following generally accepted auditing standards and governmental auditing standards. And I'm pleased to report to you all today that we were able to issue the authority a clean, or what we call an unmodified opinion. And what that means is that your financial statements present fairly the financial position and the results of the authority's operations as of June 30, 2021. And that's what you're looking for. That's the highest level of assurance that we can provide to you. I think it's also important to note that we had no audit findings this year. We also had no management comments this year as well. And I think that's just a testament to the hard work that the finance department does on a daily basis, and certainly something that Ms. Cutter and Ms. Royal and Ms. Ambrose that we work with primarily in the finance department do on a daily basis. And again, certainly a great thing to not have any findings or management points. We also issue a couple of compliance reports as well outside of our auditor's report that are included in your financial statements. The first is what we call our Yellow Book report. And it's a report on the authority's internal controls and compliance, but it's not intended to provide you an opinion on those. More so, it's there if we have any issues that we need to report to you all. And as I said earlier, we had no findings that we would need to report to you. So no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no instances of non-compliance. The other report is our single audit report related to your federal grant programs. Again, this is a report on your internal controls and compliance related to those. And we also had no issues as it relates to that part of the audit as well. So no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies or instances of non-compliance as it relates to your federal grant program. So certainly good, positive things to be able to present. And now the next few slides just going to be a quick overview of your financial statements. If you really only look at one part of your financial statements, I certainly recommend you take a look at management's discussion and analysis. It's up at the very front, just after our auditor's report. This is prepared by management, gives you some really good summary information of your financial statements and comparative information. If you're looking to see maybe why something increased or decreased over the prior year, this is a great place to look. And again, it's prepared by management. They put a lot of time into it. And certainly something, like I said, if you only look at one part, this would be the best place to look. As far as your financial statements are concerned, they include two components: your basic financial statements and the notes to your financial statements. So if we take a look at the authority's balance sheet as of June 30, 2021, you'll see.
Join the meeting.
I'm not going to read these numbers to you. A couple that I did want to point out down towards the bottom: you only have about 1.1 million in non-current liabilities. So that would be stuff like debt, which you really don't have. You got a little bit of a line of credit, which had a zero balance at the end of the year. So that's certainly a good thing. And then your current ratio down at the very bottom, 2.7 to 1. So what this basically means is that you could pay your current liabilities at June 30, 2021, 2.7 times. So that's a pretty good liquid financial position, especially for a transit authority. And this just kind of takes a look at your balance sheet over the last 5 years, more in a graphical format. I always like looking at graphs or pictures versus words or numbers on a page. It kind of tells a little bit better story, I think. And as you can see, our assets have continued to increase over the last 5 years. That's certainly something we would like to see. Liabilities have kind of gone up and then down and then back up just a little bit again, but I don't think there's anything to be concerned with there for sure. Just looking at the disparity between your assets and liabilities. If that blue column and that orange column were closer together and our net position was so much lower, that might be something to be a little bit concerned about. But again, nothing to give you any concern there as it relates to your balance sheet. Another metric that I like to look at is how old are our capital assets, especially with a business type entity like you all, a transit authority. We want to make sure that our assets, our older assets, are getting replaced with newer assets. So if we take a look at that blue column, which are our depreciable assets, those are everything that doesn't include wouldn't include your land or your construction and process, those things that we don't capitalize. That's what the blue column is. And then the orange column is your accumulated depreciation. So how much of those depreciable assets we've depreciated over their useful lives. And that's a good difference, I guess, between your depreciable assets and your accumulated depreciation over the course of those last 5 years. If we saw that orange column ticking up with no tick up in our blue column, that would mean that our capital assets are getting older. It's going to be a lot harder for us to provide the services that we need to provide. So again, that's a good looking 5-year comparison of your capital assets. Moving on to your profit and loss or your income statement, or what we call in the governmental world your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. We can see there that you have a pretty big operating loss, which is not uncommon at all for a transit authority. Typically, it's our non-operating revenues, our grant revenues that are coming in that help us fund some of those operations. And that's not uncommon at all, again, for a transit authority. And that's what we're seeing here. If you take a look at those second and third to last bullet points, we had about 19.6 million in net non-operating revenue, and then about 5.7 million in capital contributions. Ultimately, our net position, our bottom line, our equity increased by 2.4 million over last year. And this just kind of looks at it more in a graphical, again, format. Again, we see revenues ticking up, or excuse me, operating expenses ticking up. That's not uncommon, but our non-operating is going up as well. Did dip a little bit. We got a pretty good bit of additional grant money back in 2020. Still pretty good bit in 2021 as well. But you'll also see operating revenues kind of ticking down, and that's certainly a result of the pandemic. So, but again, this is a very common looking 5-year comparison for a transit authority. The final statement is your statement of cash flows. And again, this is something that I expect to see with a transit authority. Typically, a lot of our cash is going to be used to fund operations. It's those non-capital financing activities that are going to provide us some additional income to help cover what the operating revenues couldn't cover. And then ultimately, if we go all the way down to the bottom, we did have an increase in cash this year by about 5.7 million up to about 8.9 this year. And then finally, just some things that government auditing standards require me to communicate to you all. Just to reiterate, we did have a clean opinion. We had no audit findings, no management points. We had no issues or difficulties in dealing with management and the performance of our audit. Had no disagreements with management, no uncorrected misstatements. And this next one's pretty important because you don't really see this everywhere you go. We had no auditor proposed adjustments. And what that basically means is that when the finance department, when management gave us the financial information to do our audit, we had nothing that we needed to correct. We had no adjustments that we needed to post to correct any of the financial information that was provided. So that's certainly a testament to the hard work that the finance department does, again, on a daily basis. And then finally, just want to make sure you all are aware that we are independent of the authority in accordance with all of the applicable standards of our profession. And that pretty much concludes what I wanted to report to you all today. Again, it's been a pleasure to serve the authority. We certainly look forward to serving you in the future. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at this time.
I have one quick question. All the material that you sent about the leasing, is that basically looking at the Greyhound service that we lease in the building in the ITC on Oglethorpe?
Can you, I apologize. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, was a whole lot of information about changes in leases. Was that basically in reference to the ITC and our lease to Greyhound?
Well, there's a new lease standard coming out that we're going to have to deal with next year, and I believe that's going to impact some of any lease that we have, including the ones that you mentioned. So that's certainly something we're going to be looking at for implementation in your fiscal year 2022.
Okay, great. We can contact you as far as understanding it going forward.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all I had. I thought it was a nice report. That we're looking good. Of course, we'll see how that changes going into our next non-COVID year.
Do we have any more comments or questions? All right. I want to thank you, Mr. Scott, for a great presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Moving on
one
to
other note before we move on, just want a shout out to our financial team, Janice, Gloria, and Stephanie for a great job.
Yes.
Last year's budget was very challenging. I sat in on a lot of those meetings, and kudos to everyone who worked on it. And I'm looking forward to working on it again, probably starting next week when we have our first committee meeting.
I agree. Good job.
All right. Thank you for that, Mike. All right, we have 6 items on our consent agenda, and I want to ask for a motion and a second.
So
Should
moved.
we accept them?
The
So-
minutes.
Do we have any discussion? All right, Beverly, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Director Emister?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Director Odell?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Lockett?
He just came back on. I'm not sure if he's getting us on his phone.
Okay, I have Director Lockett's thumbs up. Thank you. Director Adams? So that's yes for Director Lockett. Director Adams?
Yes.
Director Robinson? And
Yes.
yes, thank you. Director Leggett?
Yes.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran?
Yes, and a thumbs up.
Thank you. And Chairman Cody?
Yes.
You have a unanimous vote for the approval for the consent items today, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, consent item 1, and we're gonna go through the items individually. First being regular board meeting minutes from December 21st.
I'm sorry, Chairman. Those were up underneath the consent, so you already have the approval.
All right,
Right.
we can move on to individual action item.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
All right, number 1 on our special incentive. What do we have in that, Ms. Ragland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have on the, as an individual action item, we want to present to the board proposal for a special incentive for the purposes of retaining and recruiting employees for Chatham Area Transit. We all know the situation that we're in with the vacancies that we have currently in the organization. And this is hopefully something that you will approve to help us move forward in not only retaining those employees that have been loyal to the organization, but also into recruiting those that are much needed. And I'll ask Ms. White to present that information at this time. Is she having problems, Beverly?
He's on but muted.
I'm working on that right now, Ms. Franklin.
Okay.
Give me 1 moment.
But I'll just preface this by saying that Ms. White, Ms. Cutter, and I have had several meetings in discussion about this plan to move forward with recruitment and retention. And all parties are agreeable that this is something that is doable in this budget. And we're ready to move forward with your approval.
Yeah, that was my question, whether we had the money.
Good
Yes, ma'am.
morning. I was actually talking, was still muted, so I apologize for that. Good morning, all. So as Ms. Ragland was talking earlier about this, we titled it the Special Incentive Retention and Recruitment Policy. Human Resources, Ms. Val, and Finance worked on this program, and we're really proud of it. Basically, we have 2 parts to it. The first part is the recruitment program, and the recruitment addresses, how are we going to recruit employees, particularly in a competitive market and what's going on now. So the bonus amount we're looking at presenting to you is $1,000 per new eligible hire. And that's broken down into 4 different payments. Initially, we have 30 days, $250, at 90 day, $250, at 180 day, $250, and at the year, $365, $250. We have a second plan which addresses retention. We want to make sure that we take care of the employees who are currently been working hard and who currently stay here. And so we want to make sure that we address retaining talented staff. So that's at the same amount as well. It's $1,000 we're looking at doing, and we're looking at doing it in quarters. The end of each, quarter, we want to do $250. The good part about that is the both recruitment and retention plan. The cost projections are for January to June 2022. So for those 6 months, and we actually pulled with cost savings, and finance did a really good job at doing that. And that will cover from January to June with the cost savings that has been identified from finance. So that's the good part. The second part of it that will start with the new fiscal year, July 1, that would have to be added into the FY 2023 budget. So as far as January to June, we have it covered and we have the sources and the funds identified through cost saving measures.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
And my question is, what if we fill positions between now and June that eats up some of that money? How are we able to continue to finance the recruitment and retention?
You mean if we're creating additional positions, or you're saying the current vacancies that we have now?
Right, the current vacancy you have now, especially in your administrative staff, which are high ticketed items.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
if those positions are filled, they would eat up some of that money. Am I right?
No, ma'am. The money that we have here now is finance, and Ms. Stephanie can speak more to it, but the money that we have here is what she's already pulled from the cost saving measures that we've already had. We've had quite a bit of positions that have never been filled for this fiscal year. So the money that we have here is what we have reserved thus far. And as we fill these positions, that money is already budgeted.
For a point of clarity, the amount that's in the report under executive, that reflects a projection throughout the end of the fiscal year. However, the 299, I did not project in any salaries for vacant positions such as the COO, the Chief Strategy Officer, nor the CEO, simply because I have no idea of what that picture looks like. The 299 represents what's left to cover those positions for the remainder of the fiscal year. And as you can see, it will be enough if the board chooses to approve the recruitment and retention plan. It will be enough to cover that cost for the remaining 6 months of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
And I think too, with what's going on, if you look at the financials, we're way under on payroll in almost every department.
Yes, absolutely. Right on point, Dr. O'Halloran. That's correct.
Because of the shortages, so we'll be cutting out overtime as well. And I think 100,000 or so was the amount for the next 6 months. I think we're surely able to cover that if we can get the employees, because I know the salaries in the area around us are all higher than what we're paying at this point. And I think we should probably get some kind of graph maybe for next meeting so that we can see where we stand as far as the county. I know the city just raised their minimum to 15. I don't think the county has as of yet, but if they do, they're also going to be competing for these, especially paratransit drivers who are under that number. So it's something that's going to have to be seriously looked at coming into the next year's budget.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
And hope you get better, Stephanie. I know you're struggling to talk.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry about that, Miss Stephanie. So Miss Stephanie and I did speak on yesterday, and we did kind of want to pose it to the board. If you look up under the recruitment program structure, we have it 30 days, 90 days, 180, and 365, but we considered changing the 30 days and moving to either 45 or 60. Initially, because when drivers in particular, when you have the operators, when they're doing orientation, when we hire them, the training class is typically 6 to 8 weeks. And so we were kind of looking at not wanting to pay the $250 while they're in orientation. That is something, that we did want to present to you to maybe see if we can get your feedback on that. I do know that with orientation, more drivers drop out than graduate. So we do struggle with keeping the drivers during the training process. So, that is something that I wanted to give you that information as well. But that 30-day, we did kind of talk about that yesterday and wanted to know if you had any feedback on that as far as the recruitment portion.
I could see it at 60, 120, 180, and 360.
Yes, sir. The 30-day, keep in mind, if they get that payment, they'll still be in orientation. They'll still be in training.
Even after 60 days?
Not six, it's 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, I would be okay with 60, 120, 180, and 360.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have it?
What's the reason we lose so many drivers during orientation?
So far that I've been here, the ones that have given me reason without no call, no shows, I would say 50% are no call, no shows because they drop out. So we never really find out why. The ones that do lately, I had 2 that left and went to another company because they were offering a $1,500, I believe, sign-on bonus. So they left, those 2 left for that reason. The rest left for organizations that offered them a little bit more money, not much more, but a little bit more money. And then you have a small percentage since I've been here that left because this just wasn't what they expected. I think it was a little bit more physical when we're talking para than what they expected. So that's just a small percentage, but most of them know, but it's a culmination of those 3.
And I think as the port expands, we're going to see more of that because once they start bringing in more containers, more drivers are going to be needed to move those containers because I think most of them end up going to Atlanta.
Yeah, Dr. O'Halloran. So I had 3 that left over the last 3 months. They went to the port. So I do know that they went over to the port. A lot of them are leaving either for the port or they're leaving for SCAD. So that, SCAD did kind of run this this program where they were doing some sort of sign-on bonus. And so I do know some left for that.
But we're training them and SCAD stealing them. Right.
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
We need to work out and combine forces.
Yes, sir.
SCAD is really, they're recruiting heavily. I noticed that Kelly Tours is even assisting them with some of their routes.
Right.
So they're in deep recruitment.
Right.
And you've even got Greyhound. There's a whole bunch in Savannah alone that are competing with us. And we're renting the space to Greyhound so we can take our drivers.
Well,
And so just to kind of add to that, just to let you know, working on retention is not just this retention and recruitment plan. We are also revamping the orientation and onboarding program that we have. We're making it more detailed, more robust. They will, work with HR for 2 days. They will understand the organization, the agency, all the way down to funding. How do we get our funding? They'll understand more about policies and procedures, their benefit. So I think we need to do a better job, and that's what we are revamping as far as educating the employees and helping them understand what their roles are, what their expectations are. That will help as far as the turnover as well, because a lot of employees, they get in here, we give them a handbook, it's a thick book. They're not going to read through all of that. And then they're coming for the next, 3 to 6 months, asking a lot of questions. Well, I didn't know that this was happening. I didn't know this, and so we're putting more effort into the onboarding process. And then we're going to do feedback, when they're here for 30 days, sit them down and go over how they've been doing, what do they need to work on, what they've been doing great at. And then we do it another 60 days, 90, and then it's a 4-month probationary period. So we want to make sure that we touch them at least 3 to 4 times while they're in their probationary period. And we also need to be really transparent. And just because they've made it close to their probationary period doesn't mean that they need to stay on. And so that's something that we're working on, and that will help retain really good staff.
I think that's a good idea.
Any other questions?
No, I was just gonna say, you still have the COVID problem too. There's contact with the public on a bus. There isn't in a tractor trailer with a container on the back.
Correct.
That's true.
Correct. So we're still.
And I personally heard that comment from a former employee. I don't have to deal with people. I don't have to worry about anything. It's just me and what I'm carrying.
Gotcha.
So there
You have
any
any more
other questions?
All right, Beverly, I want to take we want to take a roll call vote on.
Yes, sir. Director Emister.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Odell.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Stone.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Lockett.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Director Adams.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Robinson.
I see a thumbs up.
Yes, we see a thumbs up. Thank you. We will record that as a yes, Director Robinson. Director Leggett.
Yes.
Director O'Halloran.
Yes.
And Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Okay, Chairman, motion passed unanimous for item 6.1, special incentive.
Thank
Thank
you so much. Thank you.
Next we have thank you for that also, Shaka.
Sir.
Great presentation. Next we have rescinding of May 2019 committee structure resolution.
I'll make a motion. We rescind that.
Have a second.
Second.
All right, Beverly. Do we have any discussion on it?
Okay, now do a roll call vote. Director Emister.
Yes.
Director Odell.
Yes.
Director Stone.
Yes.
Director Lockett.
Yes.
Director Adams.
Yes.
Director Robinson. Thumbs up. Yes, she's recorded as yes. Director Leggett.
Yes.
Director O'Halloran.
Yes.
And Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Chairman, that action item unanimously passed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we're going to move on to the executive director's report and unit updates. I'm going to turn the floor over to Ms. Ragland at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you would, and the board would allow me to defer to Mr. Backer with his updates, and then we'll start with our reports internally.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Ragland, and to the board. Thank you again. You have my report for January, which I think is fairly inclusive. There are a couple of things that are of significant interest that I would highlight in there. One is the fact that DOT has changed the way they are handling and accounting for the intermodal budget within the DOT's overall budget, so that they can really account for those dollars in a much more transparent manner. So for transportation fees are accounting to about 3.9 million, and transit rideshare fees are about 15.9 million, which is the vast majority raised in Metro Atlanta. In the proposed 23 budget, 12.5 million of that is slated to go to the ATL, which serves that 13 county area and that organization. some of these numbers are a bit difficult to follow. The House Appropriations Subcommittee will be meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow to start going over the amended FY22 budget. I will be attending that meeting and talking with GDOT staff to see if I can't drill down in these numbers a little bit better. I believe I have forwarded to Ms. Ragland and Ms. Cutter a document that we were able to locate that talks about all of the reserved trust funds, in quotes, which is the first time we have seen this. And this recounts such things as highway fees, heavy vehicle fees, Uber Lyft fees, hotel motel, tax fees, which are unrestricted in some terms, but are in some terms also restricted to certain activities, one of those being transit. And the Uber Lyft fees are 100% transit. The hotel motel fees are 10% transit. So if I have not, I will send that to the board as well, because I would like you to look at that. I did meet with Representative Derek Mallow, who you all are familiar, who is now running for the Senate seat that will be vacated by Lester Jackson as he moves forward to run for Department of Labor. As I said, Representative Mallow is offering for that Senate seat. He does face some opposition, both from the Democratic and from the Republican side. But he, in our discussions, he did agree, running off of his editorial, about CAT and our issues, that there really needs to be an open dialogue among all of the different stakeholders. And at least for the moment, he has agreed to not move anything forward until we or he can organize that kind of discussion. While I reported on the T-Splot issue, it appears that issue is somewhat derailed at this moment. And one of the key issues is the insistence of the city of Savannah that there be a serious discussion on taking CAT to a service that is truly countywide. This will continue to unfold. The one thing that we know that is certain, or actually the two things we know that are certain, is that there is no agreement on what the project list should be. And most likely that referendum will not be held in May, but would be moved to the general election in November. Finally, we do have a new House Transportation Committee chairman. This seems to be musical chairs over the past several years, and that Rick Jaspers is no longer chairman. I'm assuming that he is still on the committee, but I have not seen that actual committee list. Vice Chairman Marcus Wiedauer, who hails from Watkinsville and represents a significant part of Athens, Clarke County, is the new chairman. He is not a stranger to transit in that Athens Clarke runs one of the larger transit operations in the state. No House Transportation meetings set this week, and the two Senate Transportation meetings that were scheduled to be held this week were both canceled. So that's basically what I have at this moment. Can we anticipate some kind of action and movement on the single county transit SPLOST? Yes, we will be continuing pushing that. I will be speaking with Chairman Wiedauer tomorrow on that. And number two, the CAT Transit Board legislation, we're just going to have to see how that unfolds as we move through the session. I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
The only one I had, Mike, the Athens Clarke County, is that almost exclusively moving UGA people around?
It's a combination. I believe Athens Clarke runs the UGA transportation program. And as I understand, students up there have access, obviously, to the UGA program system, but they have access to anything else in the Athens-Clarke County operations as well. In the budget last year, out of those transit dollars, Athens-Clarke was awarded, I believe, $1 million in matching funds to a federal grant that they received for a renovation of their transit center that will be at the Athens-Clarke Convention Center.
Mike, is there anything for those of us that will be traveling to Atlanta next week for the Chambers event? Is there anything that we need to do?
The one thing that I would want to alert you for, and thanks for asking that question, the delegation will be meeting at 8 a.m. On February the 3rd on the second floor. It's either in room 218 or 230. You're familiar with those rooms. I would suggest that you be there. I would suggest that the message to go to our House and Senate members will be, let's step away from board restructuring at this time. Let's let our to-be-named new CEO be in place, and let's understand and additionally, what is transpiring in the big picture in terms of transit truly going countywide.
But do you think, knowing that we are in the process of putting a new CEO in place, do you think that that's really a threat at this time? It's uncertain how they are going to act or respond. I don't necessarily think that it is a threat in terms of it now being a top priority, but it still remains a priority of Representative Mallow. And the message that I sent to him very strongly was, this is totally dysfunctional. If you're talking about bringing in a new CEO hired by one board and then holding the specter of this individual working for a board that would clearly be undefined at any point moving forward. So the timing is just horrible, and the message is just horrible as well. Thank you.
Just to clarify, Mike, that's the Savannah Day and it's the CAT meeting at 8 a.m.
This will be the Savannah delegation will hold their first delegation meeting at 8 a.m. at the Capitol.
And that's including us and the chamber?
Well, it includes anybody that would want to attend this particular meeting. It's an open meeting. So they will be, most likely they will be discussing a couple of pieces of county legislation. They'll be discussing the hotel motel tax. And I would not be surprised if they are going to fraudulent Freudian slip there. They are going to discuss possibly the pending CAT board legislation. So I think any board members who are going to be there and can attend that meeting, I think it would be very productive to be there to ask them to put the brakes on, pump this. Let's just put a pin in this until later.
And it's right now where, excuse me, where it's sitting, it's in the Senate. The two senators would have to sign this to move it back to the House for reconsideration.
It is in the Senate. Both senators would have to sign it. Keep in mind, we have a third senator, but he does not represent any of Chatham County until after the elections. So yes, two senators would need to sign it. It's my understanding that Senator Jackson has said he is not signing it. Even if he does sign it, the bill has to come back to the House to be amended because there are two flaws in it. Number one, the bill went into effect July 1 of 2021. And number two, there is a disconnect between the number of seats that are created on the board as a minimum and the actual appointees that are named, or appointment slots that are named in the legislation. So basically, the whole thing has to start over again.
Okay. And I have a quick question for our three commissioners. Have any of you had any discussions with Mallow about this? Because apparently he's calling you guys a fiefdom.
I had a meeting along with the chairman with Mallow, and he didn't commit one way or the other. I mean, he still believes that the board is dysfunctional, and that he'd like to see more representation within the city, but no commitments or no, I guess I would say no absolute truths of what he expects to do next. I mean, no directive on where he's going with this at this time.
Okay.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, did you hear anything different?
No, he seems to be, for me, he's straddling the fence right now. I think weighing his options. But
well, I will add, if I may, that in our discussions, he did indicate to me that CAT or the status of CAT would not be one of his campaign issues, which might give a little bit of insight into his thinking and where he is going.
Unfortunately, it's easy to condemn CAT during the pandemic when we're, down 35% of our staff. I mean, it's really not something that's under control, at least not by the staff or by the board, to triple our employees because we don't have the people to employ anyhow.
Well, and I have made that in our meeting, I made that argument with him, talked about a cycle that we had gone through with the different executive directors as well, and basically tried to let him know that we have been facing some very terrific headwinds, and we are on solid footing now, and give us an opportunity to keep moving forward.
Hey, Mike, this is Alderman Leggett. Is the Capitol plan to be open on the 3rd for us to have a meeting at all? Because I heard rumors that all of that was going to be closed out.
Well, as of this morning, the Capitol is open, will be open. You will have to supposedly wear a mask, but if last session is any indication, some will wear masks, some will not wear masks. There is only one entrance, and that is the one that is on the CLOB side where the old guard shack used to be. Other than that, and having limited access to being able to get to the senators and the representatives, and not having access to seating in the galleries, meetings, in-person meetings, have continued uninterrupted.
Okay. There's no vaccine requirement.
They have not had a vaccine requirement. They did not have one when I was up there 2 weeks ago. Well, they have a vaccine requirement and a testing requirement for the members and staff. But as an individual, either registered lobbyist or not, they're not asking to see a vaccination card or asking you any questions other than to show your driver's license and go through the metal detectors.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'll see those of you who are up there next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
And I'd also like to mention that the Squire Patton Boggs report is in your packets for your review as well. And before we move forward, I'd just like to thank the board again for approving the retention and recruitment plan. I think it's going to be very encouraging to our current employees and offer hope for recruitment in the very, very near future. So thank you again for that. In the essence of time, I'd like to just mention to you that I will be involved with a listening session sponsored by the FTA on climate change for small and medium transit agencies today from 2 to 3. And we're continuing to extend our procedures for mitigating COVID, the the effects of the COVID virus. But Mr. Dumas will go more into that as he brings his service delivery and safety update.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and
Morning.
board members, CAT directors. I'd like to, as we prepare to give you our presentation, let you know that the packet, your service delivery and safety updates are in your board packet. And prior to going into our presentation, our fixed route service as well as our paratransit service, the ridership continues to be down this month compared to a year ago, the same time last year, as well as our on-time performance for both fixed route and paratransit services. They continue to be down as well. Those adjustments and what's going on with that is that the impact, the recent rise in positive testing for COVID has greatly impacted our industry here. Many of our employees, we've had numbers, unprecedented numbers, 41 at one point that we had testing, positive testing throughout the agency. And so with that, we can assure you and the public that we are providing service on every level, all our routes, all of our service levels, they are getting serviced. However, the frequency, it's where the challenge is. So they're having to wait a little longer to catch some of the, use some of the system service, but we do provide service on every route. So the service is still out there, and we hope that we're able to move past this crisis. To answer one of the questions that Dr. Helleron asked about our on-time performance level, our the ridership and on-time performance, those targets, whether or not we need to readjust those targets. We do plan to do that, but we were waiting, wanting to wait until we got past the crisis and see what our new norm would really look like, and then adjust those numbers accordingly. I think to do that now, if we had done this 2 months ago, no one understood or could foresee that we would have the crisis that we're in now. We were thinking that we were going to round the corner, and here we are again. So we'd rather wait until we've got past this crisis, and then we'll look at adjusting those targets accordingly. With that being said, our fixed route on-time performance, as you can see, the numbers is down from this time a year ago. On our fixed route, it's not far. Well, it's a big difference when you're using the system, but when you look at the numbers itself, it's not that far off. So we're still providing and doing the best that we can. Next slide, please. Our fixed route ridership, it's down compared to December this time a year ago. But if you notice it is slightly up from November. So even in the month of December, when we only have one day in November that we're closed, in December you have, Christmas, and then hit again right at the end with New Year's. But it tells us that there are customers and passengers that are still using our service. They still depend on it heavily. And so we know that we're providing it every day in spite of the conflict that we have. Next slide. Our paratransit on-time performance, again, it's been impacted because of the COVID, and you have drivers there as well that have been testing positive. Keeping in mind that our requests for services continue to rise. So paratransit, the demands are high. I will put a note here that we have used CRC services. When they are available, they too have recently gone through some of the same issues we have, where their drivers have been impacted, positive testing. And so the days that they are able to provide service for us, our service level is a lot better. But the days that they're challenged, then we'll face some of the same dilemmas that we had prior to that service, where we're challenged to meet all the demands. We still have our top performers who are doing well and responding to the service call. And you see that at the bottom of your screen, your top 5 performers: Wendy Wilson, Chiquita Jinks, Nicole Lloyd, Charles Robinson, and Elizabeth Bright. they're all doing, and then the whole staff is doing real well, but these numbers are just high compared to all the other employees. Next slide. Our paratransit ridership again is impacted because of the fact that the demands are high. When we have the number of employees that are not available, then we cannot meet the demands. But every day that they come to work, they're working hard as well as the fixed route operators. They're doing the services, they're working extra, they're working overtime. They really care, and they're showing it by coming to work and working extended hours to try to provide the best service that we possibly can. Our CAT mobility reservation, we're able to see that we have a comparison this time because December of last year compared to December of this year, our reservation online is not as high as it was December last year. And again, that has to do with the confidence and, can we provide the service? So the customers realize that we're challenged and they're still using it, but not as much as they normally would. Next slide. Our ferry ridership, it is doing outstanding. The average ridership for fiscal 2022 is over 45,000. It is high. It is higher than it was a year ago. So it's outstanding utilizing that service. And ferry services has their challenges too, but they're keeping those boats moving and getting the customers back and forth across that river. So thank you. Next slide. Maintenance means between distance between vehicle failure. Target is 12,000. We're way above that. We've done better than we did a year ago and as well as last month. So the maintenance department is doing an outstanding job. We have some older equipment, but they're working hard as well to keep the buses running and on the road to meet the demands. Next slide. Our mobility service call center, our wait time, a target is 60 seconds. We made an improvement last month. The average wait time was 40 seconds. So these young ladies, again, they're working hard. They're working longer because they're having to come in and start their day earlier when we have cancellations or we don't have enough operators. So we have to come in. They come in and actually technically get on the phones, start reaching out to customers and letting them know that we're going to have some challenges, but we'll get to you. It may take a little longer, and give them the option to decide whether they want to reschedule their trip for another day without any penalties. So good job to our service. Next slide. Our average call again is over 17,000. This is still good. We're averaging over that each month. And again, that attests to how many calls are coming in and how these agents are stepping up to the plate. And our top 3 advocates for last month was Barbara Sanders, Shima Muslim, and LaShonda Cooper and Carla Goldstein were in the tie as the top 3 answering and responding to the calls for the month of December. Next slide. Our safety, accidents, injury, and DOT physicals. This is just information to let you know that our preventable accidents for the month of December is 2, non-preventable 2, no other unusual type of accidents. Our workers' comp number slightly is up from November. These are open cases. So the month of December, you have 7. And then our drug screen and DOT physicals are based on annual or either biannual. Yes, Dr. O'Halloran.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with 16 workers' comp cases in the last 3 months. That was more than we had for the previous 9.
Yes, sir. They have.
What are most of these claims?
I would, Doctor, I believe Director Hall, our safety director, he may not be on the call to respond and give you the great details, but I will have him to give me a breakout on that and get that information to you exactly where and how they're related. Whether they're drivers, it could be anywhere from drivers on the property in an accident that's on the bus, non-related, not a CAT prevented accident, but it could be where a motorist collides with the bus and the operator gets hurt. Could be a maintenance employee that had a slip and fall. I'll get that information and try to give you a more defined answer as to what those claims are.
Yeah,
Two
'cause
of
that
them,
seems-
two of them were motor vehicles, and one was an office staff injury.
Okay, and this was for the month of December. Is that right, Ms. White?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this question is that thank you for that information, but I guess looking at the increase within the last couple of months, and so we would like to look back and be able to respond to that too as well.
Just to give you an update, HR and safety have put a new program together where we work with our workers' comp carrier, and we have calls, and they call us and all of the case managers that we have. So let's say we have 5 injuries, and then out of those 5 employees, there's 4 case managers involved that are managing their care. We actually have those case managers, all of them, on the call, and then we have them give us an update on what's going on. You know, what's the cost? You know, what's the plan of action? Do we need to put surveillance? So we go over that now so that we can talk about help reducing it, but then also bringing people back to work sooner, you know, as far as them staying out. So we do that. I think we got our second call this Friday.
Okay, because I know these are a problem, because that means there's less drivers available, and we're already fighting with the COVID losses.
Correct.
That's correct. That's correct. All right. Any other questions before we move on to the next slide? All right. Next slide, please. So again, you have a brief information on the COVID-19 update. Going forward, I believe that we will be receiving our COVID data and information from Ms. White. And so I don't know if she has a presentation today, but she will be giving us the COVID updates going forward. Next slide. And that brings out my presentation to an end. You know, we're always on the move. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them at this time.
I don't know if this is specifically for you, Mr. Dimas, but are there considerations on cutting the time frame for the service?
If I understand, are you reducing the service hours? You mean pulling buses in, starting later? Yeah, that conversation continues to be part of what we're discussing here as far as service change. And we were really looking at, again, how greatly the COVID impact was impacting us. So we didn't want to change the service to turn around quickly and do another adjustment. So we were kind of waiting it out before we change those hours, because the hours are still working. What, again, the customers are experiencing is that the frequency. So we're finding out that the frequency is really the issue and not so much the time of service that we're providing. So right now, I don't think that we want to adjust those hours, because there's still a demand. When we pull the buses in at 10, we still get a cry from our publics that they'd like for us to go later, as we used to do pre-COVID, but we have not decided to move beyond the 10 o'clock hour as of now.
Which also requires us to cover till 10 o'clock on paratransit.
That's correct. Whatever we do for fixed route, we have to do the same thing for Perry. We have to match that level of service.
So we're doing 2 shifts instead of kind of overlapping 2. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck with a lot of federal regulations on that.
And for clarity, Dr. O, the service, Ms. Dumas mentioned earlier that we are covering all routes on the fixed side. What we're not doing is having some of those, what we call trippers, or those extra buses that we normally have in our service, that people are noticing the infrequency. That's where the lack of frequency comes, because previously, in a pre-COVID era, we had those trippers, those buses that would come in as needed to carry that extra load. And we don't have that right now, because we don't have the coverage.
No drivers. Yeah.
Right. So that's why there are the longer wait time. But we are providing, thank God, we are able to provide service on all routes currently.
And thank you, Ms. Ragland. And also to add to that, because of our recruiting process, we've started a new class for both fixed and para. Those fixed route drivers are expected to be completing their training process this week. So next week, we will get some additional help on our fixed route. I think we have 5 or 6 new operators that we'll be adding. So that will make a difference as well, providing that we can continue to try to avoid COVID crisis as much as possible, but at least we'll be adding some new help to our fixed route service.
How about Paratransit, the new class started yet?
Yes, sir. We have a class as well. They're in training now. They have been in training for several weeks now.
So they're on close.
They are expected to be ready to be in full service mid-February, I believe.
And how many were there in the class?
I think we started out with 6 and now we have 5.
Well, that's a start. I mean, every time we get new ones, it's an advantage. And according to what I've been reading on the COVID, we're about to hit the peak and start downhill, hopefully before March or early in March, so that we might get some relief from this COVID situation.
Yes, sir. We certainly hope so.
All right. Well, I'm glad that the numbers actually look pretty good considering how short we are employees. So if we can struggle another month or two and keep the public informed, because as you can tell by Mr. Mallow's note, that's the biggest problem is there's not enough service, and you can't produce what you don't have.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dumas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dumas.
You're welcome.
Our next update will be the system development report from Ms. Shalonda Roundtree. I'll get it done.
Good morning. We don't have a presentation. We're just going to highlight some of the items that are provided in your packet. Mr. Dumas did mention that our ridership is down. We all obviously understand that, but we have had an increase in ridership, our passengers per hour on some of our routes. And that is from year to year, from December 2020 to December 2021. So we are grateful for that we have still seen an increase, which just means that, the city is kind of returning back to normal with our employees returning back to work and using our services. So we are glad of that. Our highest performing routes continue to be 3B and 14. So we still have seen an increase in that. Our lower performing routes, which is pretty standard. I mean, we've known this for quite some time, is our 20 Skidaway Coffee Bluff, as well as our 11 Candler. And we are still in discussions with our insurance, as well as looking at some alternative options to kind of address these lower performing routes. Know that it's really expensive to run these routes, and we don't want to eliminate or suspend any services because it is our duty to still provide service to these residents and visitors who use our services, but we do need to look at alternative avenues to provide service to them with the lower performing routes. Additionally, I wanted to highlight that we are now servicing the City of Savannah's new Floyd Adams Junior City Services Complex. We have installed a bus stop there, and we're working with the city, and hopefully we can finalize this week or next week. We've installed or reinstalled a stop at Price and Liberty, which will serve our downtown dock shuttle. Dr. Robinson also had emailed about some key performer KPIs, and that is something that I mentioned that Dr. O has he has said that many times, just kind of revisiting that. And just for the sake of all the board members, we just wanted to make sure that, that we think that KPIs need to be revisited across the entire agency. And that is something that we hope to do with our upcoming TDP. And that is just kind of reviewing where we are and modifying those so that they are reflective of our current ridership as well as the services that we provided. KPIs are not only for service or for system development specific, but it is for the entire agency. And that is something that we really take seriously. And we want to make sure that our targets are closely aligned with our current service that we are providing across the agency. So we will be looking at that. Additionally, I wanted to highlight a program that we rolled out in the month of December, and that was for our vaccine proof for pass. And we thought that it was a very good promotion. We're proud of the numbers of that. And that for that program, we just required for passengers to provide proof of their vaccination. As you can see, the numbers were we in total 501 cards were distributed, and that was either 10 ride cards or paratransit books. So that does show that we have kind of working on our end to make sure that people are just kind of promoting vaccinations and just making sure that people do that, and also kind of rewarding them. So we are glad of that promotion, and we hope to offer some similar promotions in the upcoming months. If there are any questions, I can answer them right now.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we were talking about routes that are low performers, and we talked about the first mile, last mile, and I'm assuming that you said that you're in discussion with the insurance company.
Yes.
Is that in regards to first mile, last mile?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, Director Stone, it is. We were in conversation with them on yesterday. They're still trying to work on their end with looking at different solutions that can work for us. I mean, it is dealing with first mile, last mile. And just this morning, I emailed them because the city of Savannah has asked us to revisit looking at the downtowner service. So we're moving forward with that. And I wanted just to make sure that while they're looking at alternative solutions or transit solutions for us for first mile, last mile, that we're also making sure that we can provide service to the city with the downtowner, because it is kind of the similar concept with a third party. So we are still looking at that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious because it's working in other places. Has anybody researched how they're doing it?
We've looked at it, Director Stone, and that's kind of why we keep on communicating with our insurance carriers, because they're aware. We provided examples that other agencies are doing. We're just not sure why it's been a challenge for us. They also copied Ms. Val on it yesterday, so she's aware that they are working on it, and that's all that we can do right now. We wish that we could have done it yesterday or last year, but it just seems to be a challenge.
Well, I don't understand. I'm just going on record as saying I don't understand in a year why we can't make some progress on this. So I'll leave that there.
Well, we have provided those figures and information from other agencies that have instituted these programs, but the issue is with the insurance carrier, and if they say that they won't cover us because of it, so that's the issue. So now they're looking into possibly other options.
Yeah, I was going to say there are other insurance companies that might do this. I mean, I don't understand why this is taking over a year, but I just wanted to say that.
It's certainly been a challenge. We're not happy at all, Director Stone, and we have our legal counsel has also, reviewed some of the contracts. So, they're aware also, but our challenges has been the insurance companies, but we will continue to work and provide updates and see if there's anything that perhaps we can do to accelerate that.
Have we thought about possibly replacing the type of vehicle doing these very low routes where we don't have to send a CDL vehicle?
Yes, Dr. O. As a matter of fact, some of our team members, we were looking at that just yesterday also. But again, one of our challenges is operators. Just in general. Yeah, that's really our challenge, not particularly the vehicles, but operators. So we are looking at potential some on-demand service using those smaller vehicles for some of those routes, but we really need the operators.
Thank you, Ms. Roundtree.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll just say for Stephanie, you all know that she's been having some issues with her voice. She's losing her voice, but her information is in the packet. And I just wanted to bring your attention to the sample template that she included last month. At the beginning, it was suggested that the board receive some updates on projects that were ongoing. And she provided this template just as a sample to board to see if this was kind of the direction that you were going in about the projects. status of the projects and things like that. It's included in your packet as a sample template of project status report. So if you like the setup that she has in this template, if you could respond to her, to either she or I, to let her know that you're satisfied with this, or if you'd like to see something different, or if you'd like to see something additional, we'd appreciate that.
One quick question on the redo on the building. They're in phase 1, which is where? Upstairs in the board room financial area? Or have they started yet?
To be honest, Dr. O, they have not started. And I know, but we're very
in the towel.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. There were some legalities that we had to clear up, some things that were not clear to their legal team. And according to Mr. Colon, we have settled those issues and we can move forward.
Okay.
So don't throw in the towel just yet.
June will be the end of my 5-year term. Trying to get Beverly in office.
And we will. Stephanie, I noticed that you put your chart up. Did you want to say something?
If any of the board members had any questions regarding the finance presentation, please feel free to email, and we'll definitely get the responses back through Ms. Ragland's office. I think the graphics help and are pretty much self-explanatory, and wanted to remind everyone that we're still going through the full scope management review. It is very intense, but it's going along well, and we'll continue to keep you all updated on that status. So far, no major problems.
Thank you, Ms. Ragland. Ms. Dion was sharing the sample template that you were speaking to.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
okay.
you. Thank you so much. I thought this was a great template or submission by Ms. Cutter to present to the board at this time. And as I said earlier, if you'd like to see anything additional added to it, or if this is not what you had in mind in reference to being updated with projects, just let us know. As Stephanie said, can email us and just let us know.
No, that looks good. That saves a lot of questions being asked.
Okay. Well, that ends our updates, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ragland.
Thank you.
I want to thank you and staff, and thank you, Ms. Cutter, for holding it in the road. We appreciate it.
I actually do have one question before we move on regarding my questions about our liability claims on accidents and other things. Do we have any additional report on that? We're up to date on everything.
We spoke with Mr. Hall, Dr. O'Halloran, in reference to some correspondence I received from you and Director Odell, and we are sending you something you will receive today.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should start including that again. So
yes, I did.
Board's aware of potential litigation and things of that nature, and
yes,
just like the last graph, where we are on each claim going forward.
It will be included beginning of the next month, included in each board packet.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any more questions or discussion? All right. Next on the agenda is the executive session. I would like to ask for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters of appointment, employment, compensation, or hiring of public officer or employee.
So moved.
Second.
All right. You have any discussion? All right, Beverly.
Okay. Director Emister,
Yes.
Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett, Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Robinson. We
Thumbs
may,
up.
okay, thumbs up, yes, for Dr. Robinson. Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
and Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Motion passed to enter into executive session. I'll start the breakout rooms. Thank you.
We go into breakout now. Okay.
I think she's setting it up.
I'm setting it up now. It has me on pause for about 30 seconds.
Time to refill my drink. Actually, I didn't particularly put this cup in play today because they do have a good shot at the Super Bowl. I had the cup. It's not the team I root for.
Kansas City.
Yeah, they looked like a hell of a game the other night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. They're going to be hard to take down.
Yeah, this was a great weekend of football for me.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm kind of an underdog favorite myself, so we did pretty good this weekend.
Well, Dr. O, I'll be wearing my Kansas City jersey and face mask this weekend.
And I'm not unhappy that I have the cup available. At this point, they look like my first choice. There we go. We got Director Lockett with us.
Cowboys.
Oh.
Next year.
Bobby Lockett.
Join the meeting.
We have everybody back?
Looks like.
Yep.
Yes, sir. We're back in open session.
All right. Thank you. I would like to announce that there were no votes or action taken during the executive session. I would like to thank Colin Basinger and associates for their professional efforts in leading a nationwide executive search. Mr. Colin and his team handled this agency's need with top care and priority. We really appreciate it. Most importantly, I take my hat off to the CEO Search Committee, Chair, Director Dr. Michael Halloran, Vice Chair Helen Stone, and Board Member Director Gertrude Robertson. They went through and extended the invite to the board to be part of a rigorous and genuine process. This search was vital to era of recovery that many transit agencies are facing during this health pandemic. I appreciate the board of directors for their deliberation during the executive process, the search process. We had a good group of strong, high quality candidates that we believe have a bright future in transit, and we wish them all the best in their endeavors. But before we get to other matters of action, this board would like to shine a special light of appreciation to our interim executive director, Ms. Valerie Ragland. With her many years of service, she came equipped to take the helm of an agency at a time where nowhere near was easy. She led the organization with grace, and that speaks volumes to many. So just as a small token of appreciation, we hereby honor Ms. Valerie Ragland with this award of recognition of your many years of public service, exceptional leadership, and unconditional commitment, serving as the interim executive director and CEO of the Chatham Area Transit Authority. You are being honored with much appreciation and gratitude. And I want to say you are a true professional, and I take my hat off to you. And we will be presenting you with this award. I want to thank you, Ms. Ragland, and I present this to you. Now, with no other comments, we can move to old new business, and I will entertain a motion at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, under old business, as the chairman of the CEO Search Committee, we have decided to recommend that we appoint Ms. Faye DeMassimo as the CEO and Executive Director of Chatham Area Transit.
Second.
Beverly, you want to take a roll call?
Okay, without any discussion, we have Director Emerson.
We need to do verbal.
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Director Odell.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Stone.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Lockett.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Adams.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Robertson.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Leggett.
Yes.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran.
Yes.
Thank you. And Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Motion passed for the appointment of Ms. Faye DeMassimo as CAT's next CEO. Unanimously approved.
Thank you. And we're going to entertain a motion for the contract.
Yes. Also, I would just, again, to Ms. Ragland, thank you for all of the hard work over the last year. It's super appreciated from all of us. And I'm excited to see us all move forward. I would like to move to approve the employment contract negotiated and agreed to by CAT's legal counsel between Faye DeMassimo and CAT, and to authorize our chairman and secretary of the board to execute said contract as received today via email from Ms. Shay Bowen.
Second.
Beverly?
Yes, sir. Okay, without any discussion, Chairman, Director Emerson, I'm sorry, Director Emerson,
Yes.
Director Odell, Yes. Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Robinson. Director
Yes.
Robinson. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director O'Halloran,
Yes.
Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Okay, the employment contract has been unanimously approved.
Thank you, Beverly. Do we have any questions or comments at this time? No question. All right, I want to again thank you, Ms. Ragland. Do you have any words, Mr. Messina?
I do. Thank you all so much for the opportunity here. I'd like to join the board in expressing the deepest appreciation to Ms. Ragland. Interim positions are some of the toughest, and there's no doubt that she's distinguished herself in service to the organization during this time. So thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing to work with you as we move CAT forward. I also want to thank the board for the confidence of a 9-0 vote, and to tell you how I look so forward to earning the confidence that you've placed in me and in our organization every single day. Look forward to getting there, getting back home, and moving CAT forward. So thank you all for the process and the opportunity and the great things the great future that we have.
I want to thank you for that, and we all look forward to working with you and moving this agency in a forward direction. You're much appreciated. Do you have any more comments or questions?
I just want to make sure if Ms. Ragland had any words to share, just give her an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, it's been a pleasure. It's been a labor of love, if you will, for me to serve in this position for this past year. I think most of you know how I feel about Chatham area transit. It has always been first and foremost in all decisions that I've made for CAT. So I'd just like to thank the board for the opportunity to serve. And I look forward to working with our new CEO.
Wow.
Thank you, Ms. Ragland.
And just again, the thanks to Valerie for the great job she's done over the past year, to our legal team for working through a tough time for contracts, to Faye to welcome you aboard, to Colin for doing a tremendous job getting us through this process, to Beverly, of course, who's intimately involved with all the paperwork and has kept this entire board informed, and looking forward to a solid 2022.
Right.
Right. I thank everybody for coming out today. I think we definitely reached a milestone today, and I'm looking forward to get on with the new year. And I want to thank everybody for attending today.
Thank you.
Quick question, real quick. I just think it's important that we've got this out. But when can we expect our new CEO to start the job?
Looks like February 3rd with Ms. DiMassio can answer that.
That's correct. I start on February the 3rd, and among some of the first things that I'll be doing is scheduling meetings with the board members to talk to you all again as we all get started in partnership together with moving CAT forward. So look forward to meeting with each of you soon.
Very cool. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everybody this time, and we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.